So, guys, Assalamu alaikum, hello, hi, sayonara, namaste, from wherever you are watching this, listening to this. So, welcome to this Gup with Mahwash. My name is Mahwash Ajaz, and today I'm joined by someone whose work I've greatly admired, not just in the past, but I always look forward to. I always ask her whenever I speak to her, I always ask her, like, what are you working on right now? And this is going to be one of my questions put to her in this conversation. I'm with Shazia Ali Khan, who is the noted film director and writer of Pinky Memsaab. Now, you must have seen this film. If you're anybody from the diaspora, you have definitely seen this film. It's there, I mean, on Netflix and on a lot of OTT other platforms as well. And I'm so happy to have Shazia on board today for this conversation. So I just, before I get get you guys on board with this conversation, I want to thank Shazia first for taking out this time. And we've been meaning to have this conversation for a very long time, right, Shazia?
Well, we have the casual ones
Yeah,
over
we have
coffee, but yeah, the official one
the
hasn't
official
happened
one
yet.
is and I think how long has
It's
it been?
always a pleasure to talk to you, Mahwash. I mean, it's like somebody's kind of energized you, in from your stupor, because as you know, in Dubai, it's very easy to sort of get into your
Yeah,
routine and
your little
life and
cul-de-sac.
work.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. How long has it been to Pinky Memsaab?
Oh, well, to the making of it, which is when we started 5 years, but since it came on sort of on the screen, 4 years.
4 years.
And I'm actually quite embarrassed when people ask me, so tell me about your next project, because it's been literally 4 years. When I made it, I never thought कि इतना बड़ा gap आ जाएगा. But a lot happened,
A
as
lot
the whole
happened. Yeah,
world knows.
that's what
COVID आ गया बीच में.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But COVID was a big setback to producers, filmmakers. And I
Yeah,
remember I think we met right before COVID, and you had two, three things that, you were thinking of and you wanted to work
yeah,
on. And
yeah.
so what's going on now that, obviously we are back to a new normal and things have taken a hit, but are you working on something?
Yeah, so I am. So, I teach at Middlesex University. So that's my sort of day job. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for all aspiring filmmakers, especially the indie filmmakers,
Yeah.
it's my biggest uh, bolt of advice is कि अपना कुछ side पे रखो indie filmmaker,
Mm.
unless you're hardcore commercial, because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
तो वो मैं कर रही थी. उससे ये होता है कि when you have nothing to do, it's like a double-edged sword. So
Mm.
when you have literally nothing to do, then you've got to do something, and you end up doing it, which is what happened when I made Pinky. But
Mm.
now, because I have this job which kind of keeps me, up to date with what's happening in the industry and stuff, तो थोड़ा थोड़ा वक्त निकालना पड़ता है. एक तो वो उसकी वजह से थोड़ा स्लो गया, और फिर दूसरा कोविड और etc. So while we were going through that hardcore COVID time, I wrote another script.
Mm-hmm.
Amna Mufti and I, actually, she did the dialogues and I did the screenplay. And I chose Amna because she, her dialogues are very powerful, and then it was a very rural story. And although I thought of it and I thought it would be cool to do it, but I wanted that authenticity of someone who actually, has close association with rural Pakistan. And as some of you don't know, she's married to a landed family,
Yes.
married into. So a
Yeah.
lot of her time is spent in the Havelis, and the जिस तरह का setup उस script का था. So it was I mean, I'm very proud of it. It's called Kafir Code,
Mm.
and it turned out pretty well. But it was independent cinema in the sense कि उसमें वो typical, again, commercial elements उतने नहीं थे जितने लोग मांगते. तो
Mm.
और ऊपर से फिर कोविड.
Mm.
सो कुछ कोशिश की, बट नहीं हो पाया. एंड आई एम नाउ
Mm.
टॉकिंग अबाउट फाइनेंसिंग. तो वो
Mm.
पड़ी हुई है स्क्रिप्ट, एंड आई
Mm.
एम आमना नहीं एंड में मुझे कहा, बिकॉज वी वर बोथ सो एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट. शी
Mm.
सेड कि हर स्क्रिप्ट का एक वक्त होता है, और
Yeah.
ये ना समझो कि अब लिखती है तो वो अब अगर नहीं बनी इसी वक्त, तो इट्स गोइंग टू नॉट हैपन.
Mm.
So Sorry, I switched to Urdu. So Amna was saying that, there's a time for everything, and shelf it or put it on the back burner for some time and it'll happen. So so that's one complete script that I have, which I think hopefully, inshallah, I'll make one day, but it's got to be shot in Pakistan 100%.
Right.
And it has to be acted by Pakistani actors. So for that, I need to sort of tap into, the local money or the local producers, because as you and I know, international investors are not investing in Pakistani stories anymore for a number of reasons. So yeah, so that was a bit of a tragedy, but hopefully वो होगा एक दिन. उसका सब कुछ तैयार है, बस just need financing.
Right.
तो वो हुआ. उसके बाद I met somebody else here in Dubai, who's this producer from South India. And South India, as you and I know, big. They are
Very big.
coming along quite hugely.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the Rajnikant South
No,
India.
even
I'm
their
talking
independent
about the
cinema is very
raw.
strong.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
So pehle to when we met socially. So, when he suggested that we do something together, so I was kind of thinking again the dishu thing. And then he recommended these amazing movies to me, like Super Deluxe. I don't know if you've seen
Yes,
it.
I've
It's
heard of
on
it.
Netflix.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Navarasta, which is these 9 stories, but each story is based on a human emotion. So anger, jealousy, lust and stuff like that. So, and that really opened my eyes, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, kitna amazing kaam ho raha hai. And of course, from across the border, it hits home because the language is kind of similar, the culture is similar.
The way we look, the
So
way we eat, the clothes,
yes,
everything just rings
absolutely.
rings true.
No,
Yeah,
no, it
closer
it
to
it
home.
just kind of, yeah. So देखो, politics aside, we have to learn
To
from whichever
coexist.
person
Yeah.
or thing
Yeah.
that coexists with us and is doing better, right? That's
Yeah.
what life is. So
Yeah.
you can't say नहीं हम अच्छे हैं, मगर वो जो है वो क्योंकि वो हमारे दोस्त नहीं है तो वो अच्छे नहीं है. ये क्या
Yeah.
बात हुई? As in, you have to admire things like because of how good they are, or how because of the standards that have been achieved. So anyway, long story short, so that's why how Jay and I partnered up. And so we are doing another one here. It's an anthology, but not the kind of anthology where the stories are separate. I think I spoke to you about it
Yes,
a
I
year and
remember.
a half ago, where
Yeah.
there are, I always thought, because after COVID, and when you think about what's happening in the world and how people are connected, I always thought it would be amazing to do a film where you would have 5 perfect strangers to each other, belonging to completely different cultures and countries, and then for them to come together knowingly or unknowingly in a situation where they are affecting each other's lives, but they don't even know that they're doing it. That whole cosmic connection thing.
Yeah.
That always, because of the reading I've done during COVID, which is, a most spiritual books and Sufism and stuff. I thought that would be an interesting theme to explore. So we
That's
started off writing that.
oh, it's still being
And
written.
it's no, so I'm just giving you the historical
Okay.
perspective. That
Okay.
was a year and a half ago,
Okay.
as you know. And then again, I wanted a cross section of people, not just my perspective of the UAE. So then I invited a few people to contribute stories. So 2 are mine, and then 3 have from different age groups and cultural and religious and geographical communities that hopefully that would give that melting pot. फिर वो जब stories 5 individual हो गई, then I sat down to kind of connect everything, because obviously we needed a skeleton, right? With 5 very interesting stories, but how they would somehow connect. That takes a
Stitch with
long
each
time.
other. Yeah.
वो
Yeah.
anthology कहने को तो is easy, but when you as long as they're independent, they're okay. But when you go about sort of connecting them, तो थोड़ा मुश्किल होता है, because you have to keep in view the dramatic arcs of not one but five, individual
And have
stories,
to
and
make
then the
them
characterized.
cohesive, yeah, into one story. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
absolutely.
So my
So that's exciting.
biggest yeah, it sounds exciting, but again, it's going to be a long journey in terms of the financing and producing
Uh,
part. My favorite part, as you know. I hate doing it, muster up
because I think
the
essentially you're a writer. I think essentially you're a
uh,
creator.
I'm a I think I'm a storyteller. I
Yeah.
love telling stories. अभी भी तुमने एक छोटा सा you asked a question and I've given you a 20-minute
Yeah,
answer.
but that's why you and I connect so well, because we're both storytellers.
Hmm.
We just want to tell stories, and all the other stuff that comes with it is so exhausting. And I've kind of been through a similar journey, and it's just
Yeah,
exhausting to kind of,
exhausting.
yeah, to kind
Yeah,
of deal with that madness, and the
yeah,
frustration is so,
yeah,
at times it kind of becomes the biggest demotivator to tell stories, and sometimes
yeah,
you're
yeah.
just better
And
off
I
when
think
you're,
we're not alone because
yeah,
obviously people like you and I are kind of swimming upstream also, right? Because
yeah,
एक वो जो you see, paisa and art are two opposite things, right?
things, yes.
And the people who are successful in making financially viable projects have to marry the two. There's no
Hmm.
other way.
But
And उसमें
I actually feel like these
hmm,
two things are also something that I want to do. Like I want to do like I was telling, I think
yeah.
somebody the other day, that I want to make a masala film. Like I want to make an entertaining
Yeah,
film,
yeah. A
but
good masala
a
film.
good,
Yeah.
entertaining, tear jerking, and running in the
Hmm.
hills kind of a masala film. But the
Yeah.
problem is right now, and this is what I want to take the conversation next. But before I do, I also want
Hmm.
to say that it's a brilliant choice, Amna Mufti, because Amna is a dear friend and she's such a wonderful writer. Like I love everything that she's written, and
Wonderful.
yeah, and she's just not afraid of darkness. I think that's so brave.
No, no, no.
She writes,
Yeah,
she just goes there.
yeah,
You are like,
yeah,
whoa, did you really
yeah.
go there? And she does manage to, get there. So I think you and Amna will.
And Mahwash, again, for the youngsters, for the filmmakers community, she's a brilliant writer, yes.
Hmm.
But she is a brilliant human being.
Yes,
And
she is.
that's so much more
Yeah.
important because हर कोई अपने आप को बिल्कुल बंद कर देता है. When
Hmm.
you are in the initial stages, when you're trying to collaborate,
Yeah.
I guess because of experiences where people have been bitten by,
Hmm.
opportunistic people, but
Hmm.
most people are so cagey about contributing or to the
Sharing
project or
advice. Yeah.
sharing
Yeah.
advice
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And she's just one of those exceptions. She and Saji Gul, I think, they
Yeah.
should be
Saji is
made heads
wonderful
of
as well.
some
Yeah.
big channels or production houses in Pakistan, and you'll see वो बन गए उस तरह के लोग तो ऑटोमेटिकली हवा सही चलेगी.
And that's what I
It's
was just,
just
yeah.
hmm.
I was just mentioning this to
Even
someone
I'm even
yesterday.
our art crowd, right? The
Yeah.
award winning international sense, even they are so closed. They
Yeah.
Why don't they open, you know what I mean, without taking
Because
names
I
and
think that
stuff.
it's like, I hate to sound very Marxist, but it's about the
Hmm.
limitation of resources. And you see, they feel like
Hmm.
it's obviously an
Hmm.
erroneous view. It's not a correct view, because art
Hmm.
and the kind of people you and I are, like you and I are always trying to open doors for each other. I know that. And I'm always trying to help you out in whichever way I can. And I know you've done the same for me. It's because the fact is that I feel like we don't feel like we are limited by what we are doing, but sometimes I think that erroneous view is held by a lot of people. But I
Hmm.
just wanted to say that, I was saying this to someone the other day, that it's so sad, like you mentioned, that people like Saji and Amna, if they are at the helm of, better places, then they would be able to do so much more. And I think that is kind of in process for Saji. I don't know about
Oh.
Amna, but I do feel like I was watching this horrible drama. I wasn't watching it, like I was
Hmm.
just listening to the discourse about it, because I gave up on
Hmm.
that drama. and that
Hmm.
and I was amazed at that person. I don't want to name the writer, and I don't want to
Hmm.
name the drama, but I
Hmm.
saw this person's Twitter timeline,
Hmm.
this drama writer's Twitter timeline, and it
Hmm.
was horrendous. Like, I'm not saying it was horrendous because she's not a good person, I don't know her personally, but she
Hmm.
couldn't differentiate between internet sarcasm and and what an actual criticism of a show. And she's
Right.
got a very successful show out there. And I was so sad because and then a lot of other content that she endorses and posts. And I'm not going to be like, oh, cancel her because her personal opinions are not aligned with mine. I'm not saying that at all. I think everybody has a right to write. Everybody has a chance, should have a chance to showcase their work. But it's so sad that a lot of mainstream successful television and even films sometimes are being done by people who, I think there's so many better people out there who would have deserved that opportunity and would have also done probably better, but they're not, because like they are like you and me, struggling with this, trying to deal with the financing and the production and the this
Yeah.
and the that's
Yeah.
of the storytelling. So
Yeah.
I mean, I completely feel you there, and I completely understand your struggle. Tell me about
You
what.
see, just to add a little bit, because it's so important for people who are trying to make their films, right?
Yeah,
Producing is a proper profession
yeah,
with a
which
proper
writers do
job
not do.
definition.
Yeah,
Yes, but it so happens that every time you have a passion project, like I did 5 years ago,
yeah,
you have no choice but to do it all
yourself.
by yourself, because
Yes.
people, there is no vision which would believe कि यार ये possible है. अब my assistant directors, both of them, Faiza Khanum and Babar,
Hmm.
they have both churned out a film which is going to be in cinemas in like a week, called John,
Oh,
and it's
John is
based on
amazing.
Babar's. Yeah, so John is Faiza and Khanum were my two 80s. The
Hmm.
thing is that you where is that opportunity that you give?
Yeah,
They are much younger than
yeah,
me, right?
yeah,
So where is that opportunity that you give to people so
yeah.
that they have that practice ground? And then once, अभी उनका भी मैं example ये दे रही हूँ कि उनको भी खुद करना पड़ा,
Hmm.
सब कुछ खुद करना पड़ा. They did it
Yeah.
all by themselves. They are the producers, they
Hmm.
are the writers, and
Yeah.
he has directed it. And I
Hmm.
don't think he understands film crews and work lines adequately to know that it would have been better if that job would have been spread out amongst
Hmm.
different people. But
Hmm.
I think कि इस तरह के cinema में you can't do it unless you prove कि, oh, I can do it, this one
Hmm.
thing, and then hopefully the second one is easier. I
Hmm.
think he got shot in the middle of the shoot also because it was happening in Kurangi or
What shot?
something, and wahan,
What shot?
yeah, like
Oh my.
shot through the arm and then
Oh,
uh, past the chest or
oh my
something. It's
God.
a miracle
Literally.
that he's alive. So why must you put so much blood? I mean, putting blood in sweat is good, but I think
Hmm.
in in the first project वो इतना, sorry to use the Urdu terminology, but इतना कचूमर निकल जाता है कि उसके बाद सेकंड के लिए हिम्मत ही नहीं होती. And I am
हाँ,
case in point. It
हाँ.
takes you a while to gear up, and because you know you want to do it kind of that in a way that is true to your creative whatever
Hmm.
creative
Core, your creative core.
sensibilities,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But Shazia, what about the current shows? I mean, I think COVID really and I see this year, because after COVID came, you had this backlog which came for films, and then you saw those films. Now there's actually you know, this tiring and this frustrating process that you're talking about, like where do you go, what do you do, where do you find the finances, and where do you find the people and the expertise? uh, Now this year 2023 is actually seeing the real sort of effect of COVID, because
Mm-hmm.
this is the year when there are no big films. There is no big Humayun
Hmm.
Saeed starrer. There is no
Hmm.
big
Hmm.
ARY film. There is no big Nabil Qureshi film. There is no other
Hmm.
major film that, you know, some independent.
Hmm.
Usually Wajahat Rauf comes up with an entertainer,
Mm-hmm.
like which we had last.
Eid
Yeah,
thing.
this
Yeah,
thing. So
yeah,
this is actually a pretty dry
yeah,
spell this year.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I mean, I'm not even sure if people are working on films anymore. I know that you are
Hmm.
obviously a country away, and then you have your own struggles in living, you know, as a producer and as a Pakistani producer away from Pakistan, or a writer and a creator as well. But what's your take, and what would you say to people who are, you know, who financiers even, like what would you say to encourage them to, okay, maybe try this, try that? What's your take on everything that's happening in this current climate?
Okay, so I mean, it's a big question,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm not even equipped to answer it because, as most people say, you don't even live in the country, right? Like
Hmm.
you said. But we are quite close to Pakistan.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of
Yeah, but you
Dubai
also
and the
mentioned
comings
about,
and goings.
international investors. What do you think is keeping them
Yeah.
away, and why are they not interested in our stories?
I mean, that's a very obvious answer. What's keeping them at bay? It's
Hmm.
the politics, because
Hmm.
most international producers, with a few exceptions, are from the other side of the border. They're
Right.
the ones who are interested in this content. There's a huge audience in India who
Oh,
actually
yes.
loves our content,
Oh, yes.
as you
We've
know,
seen
through
it.
the dramas and
Yeah,
all.
through the
Yes.
dramas. Oh, my God.
They
Nuts.
love the actors, they love everything, but no, unfortunately, due to the politics, I don't think any sane producer
Yeah,
would
no,
put
they
any
won't.
money in
Yeah.
a project that is predominantly
Pakistani.
leave predominantly Pakistan. I think even a joint production at the time of Pinky
Yeah.
Memsaab was possible. Even now, even a joint production, I think, is
I
a
don't think
very,
Pinky
very
Memsaab
tough.
would have been possible today. No way. I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah,
so.
no
It
way.
wouldn't be.
No, I agree. I got lucky just before that
Yeah, the whole
the shit
craziness.
hit the fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but my, so now what the question that you asked is more like an economies question, right? A
Mhm.
business question. The
Hmm.
thing is that Pakistan doesn't, if you talk about the theater um, uh, market
Hmm.
and the OTT market, Pakistan is not big enough.
Yes.
We don't, unfortunately, we don't have the numbers for any financier. And now I'm talking just angel
Investors.
investors
Yeah.
who
Or
just
even for
want
OTT.
a decent, yeah,
Yeah. Not even
decent
enough
return
eyeballs.
on
Yeah.
investment, like a
Yes.
12% or 15%. They don't care how good or bad the film is. They just care that their money should be back.
Yeah.
So, and then there are those kind of investors who invest in you because they're affiliated with the film industry.
Somehow.
Both
Yeah. Yeah.
those groups are not willing to do it because the returns are not coming in, and the returns are not coming in. It's simple because of a sheer loss in numbers. So, for
Hmm.
example, theater screens in for a country like Pakistan, is hardly, and because of the financial structure, I've said this so many times before publicly.
Hmm.
The way the financial structure is, very little. You get 5 cents to a dollar, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
5% of your earnings is what
Hmm.
the filmmaker gets. How is
Yeah.
that even? I doubt if
Feasible.
even Mola Jat is
Hmm.
right now profitable,
Hmm.
because of the dynamics.
Hmm.
The international market is different. So
Yes.
if you can get your movie up out there where an international audience is watching it and
Hmm.
appreciating it, then yes, there are chances of profitability, which then translates back to an investor saying, okay, yeah, I'll invest in this. Now, the
Hmm.
problem is there are very few examples of profitable ventures outside of Pakistan, where it's not like a hardcore Pakistani story, but something
Hmm.
which has appealed on the to the world at
To the
large.
global
What
scale.
what's the
Yes.
what's the last one that comes to your mind? I'm talking financially, not critical acclaim.
A
Financial
Pakistani film?
success,
Hmm.
a Pakistani film which has been financially successful in the international market.
Smaller jet.
I mean, I know there are few, but
Yeah.
बहुत few and far between.
Hmm.
When you have this precedence, any money man or woman will never invest in a project where they would feel it will be safer to invest it in a fixed deposit in a bank
Hmm.
and earn 10%, literally,
Yeah.
unless he's some crazy person. So if you look back and see all the investments, ya to wohi, the story that I told you of Babar and Faiza, myself, Sarmat Khusat, every time people say he's just some Sufi person who just wants to churn out great stuff, but they
Hmm.
all finance from their own pockets,
Hmm.
or they have these angel investors, friends and families who believe that their thing is going to be thing.
And they know you're
Other
not going to
than,
get the money back.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you compare us to say in the Indian industry, again I'm harping on about it because Dubai is such a great bridge
Yeah, yeah,
for
it
the
is.
two countries. For
Yeah.
people like us, we can observe it, right?
And
They
we
have
can
a
collaborate
proper,
if the politics allow,
if
but
the
yeah.
politics,
Yeah.
yeah. So if there is a proper industry, जिसे कहते हैं, there's a market for it.
Oh, yes.
There
Oh,
are
very
people
established.
who only invest in film. That's
Yes.
their job. They're
Yes.
not creatives,
No.
but they will only, they are like people invest in oil, people
Yeah.
invest in real estate.
Yeah.
There is like these thousands, tens and thousands of people in India who invest only in the film industry, and
Yeah.
they have their own set formula. Now,
Yeah.
that kind of whatever culture
System,
or
structure,
environment is
infrastructure.
missing,
Yeah.
infrastructure is missing in Pakistan. So unless that
Absolutely.
is fixed,
Hmm.
how do you expect people to find investment
Hmm.
for their projects? And then
Hmm.
obviously don't forget my point about the international acclaim.
Hmm.
Well, it took something like Parasite,
Hmm.
one movie. Of course, Korea's been churning out great stuff every week, every month. But
Hmm.
that one film, Parasite, for me personally, I got jolted into saying, "Oh, let me look at Korea.
Hmm.
Let me see what's coming out from there." It just took one movie to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel that if we have something like this, I know there've been some Oscar nominations recently
Buzz,
that
yes.
have dared to do that, and they
Hmm.
came very close also.
Yes.
But it's not hopeless.
Hmm.
These people are churning out these beautiful stories year after year, and
Hmm.
one day we will hit the jackpot. And when that happens, then hopefully people
Yeah.
will, there'll be proof of there'll be precedents, there'll be
Yeah.
proof of concept, proof of
Hmm.
the fact that financially successful
We are
films
viable.
can come out of. Varna phir, of course, the Bollywood copies are always there. That's going to give pleasure to the Pakistani audiences for sure. But is
Hmm.
it going to make money for the producers? No, because we don't have enough screens,
Hmm.
unfortunately. It's a
Hmm.
numbers game.
Yeah, but do you feel like with the commercial successes, now I'm now
Hmm.
shifting to the idea of what is commercial cinema and what makes successful Pakistani commercial cinema. I always personally believe, and I want to know what you think, is that it has to be a good story. And I may be biased because I am a writer myself, but my thing is that if it's not a good story, it doesn't matter who's the actor and who's the director and how much money you've spent on the girls Garara. If it's not a good story, if you've mucked up the story, you will have mucked up the whole thing. So it doesn't matter how much money you're spending otherwise and how many cinema screens you have, because we've seen it in India. Like India is also facing a different kind of crisis in terms of Bollywood, and like you very rightly mentioned, like the South Indian cinema is also trying very different things. And now with the advent of OTT, they have a lot of other challenges as well. And I think that's a challenge which goes to Hollywood. Recently, I was listening to Tom Cruise talk about Mission Impossible, and he said that he was holding on to that film for years because he refused to release it on OTT because he said that this is a film for cinema. So that existential struggle that cinema owners and writers and producers are going through is very much real. I want to
Yeah.
ask you that what's your take on commercial cinema in Pakistan and globally, not just Pakistan, but globally. And now that you, and as a filmmaker and as a writer, and these projects that you're doing, I know you're calling them indie, but now indie seems to have more market than commercial cinema because of the
Yeah.
advent of OTT. So what's your take
Yeah.
on this whole clash now, that the
Yeah.
commercial, the very idea of commercial is actually not that, it's not that carved in stone anymore. Previously in the 2000s,
No, you're absolutely
yeah.
right. So maybe the word commercial is the wrong word to use. You're
Mm.
absolutely right. Financially feasible projects
Yeah.
could be both sort of a nice, cheesy family entertainers, or they could be hardcore, sort of
Good
hard-hitting
story.
stories.
It's
You're
a good
absolute.
story. Yeah.
But I'll tell you so tying in with your question about the cast and the set design and the production value.
Mm.
So the thing is, I used to believe 4 5 years ago that actors don't matter, as in
Mm.
the actors' pull or kind of sellability doesn't matter
Mm.
to the commercial success or critical acclaim of a film, but
Mm.
even to be able to show it on different platforms. But that's one thing learning that I've done, where I've had to literally rethink my
Mm.
entire thinking. I think that even for a hard hitting story, even for what we call alternative cinema,
Mm.
there is wisdom to casting at least one player
Mm.
amongst the four
One
five,
big player.
because
Mm.
yeah, because it's such a cluttered, even OTT is so
Mm.
cluttered now
For
that
sure.
the you'll have to, of course, your budget might go up by maybe 40% by just
Mm.
one actor being
Mm.
there who's kind of well known,
Mm.
but not for the sake of casting. Yeah, so he's very good for the
He's
role, or
good as
she,
well. Yeah.
but good as well, but
Yeah.
also has a pull. The
Yeah.
go there, there is merit to that
Okay.
argument, because
Okay.
even when you go, because I've done it to the OTT platforms, the major ones, even
Mm.
they're asking
Mm.
about
Who's
which
in the
cast
film?
member
Do you have
who's
a
in the
big
film.
one? Do
And
you have a
so
sellable
you
one?
say, oh no, it's a very realistic cinema, we want people to believe that these are actual people living in Dubai. However, this
Mm.
one character is X, Y, and Z, and that
Yeah.
kind of puts you through the door. So what
Okay.
I'm saying is a bit of this and a bit of that. Of
Mm.
course, your entire group of cast and crew and the production design has to be true to your creative thinking.
Mm.
However, think like a business person also,
Mm.
because if you can say, oh no, we make a really good film and OTT will pick it up, yeah, sure, they will probably, especially
Mm.
if it's won a few awards. What will they pay you for it? Peanuts,
Ah.
because they know they've got you. What
Yeah.
they do is, when they like the film, they say, okay, we want it.
Mm.
Then you tell them what your price is. Then they say, no, but we've done our calculations and the production value of this film is this much, because of
Mm-hmm.
the way, we're experienced. We know who the
We know
actors
how
are.
much you
We
spent
know,
on this. Yeah.
yeah, we know how much you spent on it. You may say you spent XYZ, but yeah.
Mm.
So basically, you're cornered and in no place to negotiate then.
Mm.
So I would say be smart about it. Get an array. You see, they're not at fault when they say it, because what happens is, when you've got like this whole stream of things on Netflix and you
Mm.
see a familiar face, an actor perhaps that you admire,
Yeah,
so
that
you
does
will
pull
stop.
you.
You
Mm.
will stop and you will click that button. And then when you click the button, you're like, oh my God, what a
Yeah.
great film. I didn't know
Yeah.
Bangladesh was making such great cinema. But
Yeah.
that one familiar face will do the
Mm.
trick for you. So
Mm.
that's how my perspective has changed. And that's, again, learning it the hard way. I would advise it to the things where you struggle so much, struggle a little bit more, gather a little bit more money, and get
Mm.
at least one player who you think will, and it doesn't have to be an actor. It
Mm.
could be a singer who's
Mm.
recognized internationally. It could be a comedian. It could be someone who holds a very popular talk show,
Yeah.
right, on YouTube,
Mm.
a blogger perhaps or something, but
Mm.
some hook
Some
you
pull.
need,
Some,
some
yeah.
pull.
Some
Yeah,
pull. Some gimmick.
yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
Okay, so Shazi, tell me about I'm just trying to like there's so much good stuff and I wish that we could talk forever. But just sort of to wind up what we've discussed, tell me what you see in the future for yourself, for Pakistani cinema, for international cinema. As you know, like we just briefly touched upon this topic just now that OTT is also in this challenged mode as well. Like Netflix isn't making that much money
No.
as it was
Hmm.
before when the lockdown
Yeah.
happened and everybody was just
Hmm.
Netflixing and chilling. So now that's
Hmm.
not really happening. And now Netflix is also what something that I've again heard from not from the horse's mouth directly, but the birds and the bees and the little buzzers have said that it's wrapping up its ops in India and it's actually not really interested in doing a lot of work in India anymore. But yes, at the same time, OTT remains a powerful force that is again challenging the forces of cinema. So, as a filmmaker, as
Right.
a writer, as a creative person, and as somebody who has some bit of who can have a very closely to accurate foresight about content of the future, what's your take? Where do you see a good space? Where would you see what would you say is a good balance for audiences in the future?
I mean, there's no easy answer to that question. All I can say is I can tell you about the mistakes one has made in the past, and learning from that mistake. One of them we've just discussed is when you do your casting, do it a little bit more sensibly from a
Smartly, yeah.
financial point of view.
Yeah.
And then I think collaborations are good. So we were struggling to find money for the new project that I'm working on, which is now in pre-production. So I teach at a university, and they have a very good student body who's graduating every year out of the UAE, and they don't have jobs. So what we've done is it's a co-production. Other than the financiers, it's a co-production between the university studio and ours. So basically, we give a few people jobs, and we know them very well because we teach them, we've seen them graduate. So we know who to pick and what. And the department heads are going to be obviously experienced people.
Yeah.
But the idea is to foster and develop the local film industry here in the UAE.
That's
Now,
amazing.
this model can be very easily replicated in Pakistan.
Right.
Most universities who teach film programs have decent equipment. They have a very good human resource in the shape of editors, sound recorders, musicians, actors, you name it.
Absolutely.
It's great to collaborate. And that's where we all started. That's where you and I started in the beginning, which is why are people so closed? If you shake my hand and I'll shake yours, it's going to take both of us in the right direction. Whereas, yahan everybody's in their own little castle.
Little
There are so
silos
many
that they made,
creative.
yeah.
Yeah, you can collaborate with advertising agencies. They're not making ads every 6 days. They have some of them have in-house equipment. They already have great directors and copywriters on their. You co-produce with certain organizations like that, and that's going to at least cut your production costs by about 40-50%. Because these hiring studios and everybody, one of the biggest restrictions is because you can get these veteran actors to even act for your film because they love the script. But then what happens to all the production related costs, right? So if you collaborate with a synergistic organization that already has all that stuff, infrastructure in place, imagine how much you're going to be. A short answer to your question is try to make the stories in the best possible way that you can in the least amount of money. Because spending, in my personal opinion, spending big bucks on film right now is not a good idea, unless you're a Star Wars or a Indiana Jones. I mean, I saw Indiana Jones this weekend. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. I mean, you can't get bigger than that. And,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they put everything and the kitchen sink at it.
Yes.
All kinds of special effects, things that you couldn't possibly. But the story, if you ask me, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom versus this one, the answer to your question, the story was 50,000 times better for that one. The special effects were not even 1/100th of
nothing.
that.
Yeah.
And yet you formed a cult following on the Indiana Jones series. So yeah, do smaller things, but do them well, and try and collaborate with synergistic organizations that would bring your production costs down, and then get some good actors to say, oh, I love the script, chalo, I'll do it for free,
at a
or I'll
minimal
do it for
cost.
a minimal thing.
Yeah.
But an important cast, not just anybody. The rest of them can be, so you give a chance to the new players, but one person needs to be the champion or the hero of the thing. This is my honest learning for the last 4-5 years. Yeah.
Well, I wish you the very best, and I really hope that
Thank you.
These really insightful bites of information are useful to a lot of people, and they've been very
I hope
useful to
they
me as
are.
well.
I hope they are. I
No, of
really
course they
hope
will
that
be.
we all benefit. from
because I think that
thing when
ambition also, like, and I think that we're addressing, when you're saying things like these, I think you're addressing a lot younger people and a lot
yeah, I
fresher,
am.
greener people who are still.
I find hope in them. Seriously, I don't find hope in the veterans. I don't, as
Wow.
far as
Okay.
Pakistan. Yeah,
You
I
sound
think
hurt.
the future is the young filmmakers of
Hmm.
At least for Pakistan. Yeah.
I think there's a bit of truth on both sides, and I think there's hope on both sides, because I've met a lot of veterans who are such a delight, and they open so many doors, and they're happy to open doors. But like you said, there are also these very successful people who are so closed off. They don't want to share a shred of success, and they don't want to learn. And they don't want to share that learning either, because they feel so insecure about what they've achieved. And even in the green lot, I feel like the green kids are also very protective of what they have, but at the same time,
Yeah,
they're
that's true.
also they're
Mm, you're
also
right.
they're also kids who are very open and very
Mm,
eager and ready to take on challenges and ready to explore new things. So I think it's a matter of personality. I would say that
true, very
it's
true.
also
No,
it's also
I think I also kind of, I'm a very passionate person. I
I
give
know.
these sweeping statements. But you're right. I mean,
But then
even
you
in
wouldn't be a writer if you weren't doing that.
but veterans, I didn't mean that they're necessarily all sort of not very nice people. They like I've named a few, and there's so many more.
Hmm.
Jami is doing so much for the younger generation. He apparently he gives out equipment free
Hmm.
when he sees a good
That's really
story
good.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's from a production point of view. Well, I don't mean that. What I mean is that the future, that stuff that we talked about, how do we take Pakistan on the international platform so that financiers all over the world put money in
Hmm.
us and we grow as in the numbers also, both in terms of audiences and cinema screens and OTT platforms. That push, that drive will come from the youth. This is
Hmm.
what I think. They
Yeah.
will
I
come
think
from
they've
the
got a
younger minds because,
yeah. And I think they've got the eye on the future better than these old guys. Like these old guys,
yeah,
they're mostly like cinema owners and channel owners and
yeah,
news
yeah,
channel owners.
yeah,
They're like, oh, let's put
yeah.
two politicians together and then just get them to fight. But the
Yeah.
younger generation's
And
kind of
and
bored
and
of
plus
that.
it's bloody hard work. One where you
Yeah.
will get knocked down every five
Oh
minutes and
yes.
let's just trust. I mean, youth, you can do it. It's like
Yeah.
us having babies in our 20s versus us having babies in our 40s. I mean, there's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh
literally,
God.
films, as you know, is like giving birth to a
Oh
baby.
yes. Oh yes. Oh
So
yes.
that's why वो कहते हैं ना, let have your children early. It's not because of any other reason. It's just because you're stupid enough to go through all that hardship and pain. I think the youth is stupid enough to jump
Yeah.
into this passion-filled profession, and that's why I'm banking my $2 on them.
I think passion and ignorance are a very good combination. You must have
Yes.
both. Because if you have wisdom
Yeah.
and passion, then it's like a
Yeah.
constant,
Yes. Yes.
clash.
True.
You
Very
cannot
well
have
said.
both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you
Yeah.
can either be
Yeah.
wise, or you can be, you dive headfirst into something.
Crazy passion. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, I keep quoting that Charles Bukowski quote: find something to love and let you kill it. Let it kill you. You know,
Let it kill you.
let it kill
Yeah.
you. So it's that kind of a thing. But thank you so much,
Yeah.
Shazia, for your
You're
time.
most welcome. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, absolutely. And we'll sit down for one of our informal chats soon.
Coffees. Yes.
Coffees, our coffees. And I will look forward to what you're producing. I really hope that anyone who's watching
Thank
this,
you.
she's a
Yeah.
fabulous filmmaker. You've seen it in Pinky Memsaab. She's got so many more stories to sell. So to sell and to tell. So if you are somebody,
Sell first.
tell
This
first.
time,
And she's already
sell it
told the
first, then.
yeah. So please
Yeah.
buy the ones that she has now so that she
Yeah.
can tell others. And
Yeah. Right after this vlog, I'm going to set up an account detail thing in the link below,
GoFundMe.
and you can contribute. Yeah, go fund me.
Yeah.
No,
So,
no,
but
just kidding.
no, but
Slow
still,
and
I think
steady
that it's
wins the race. It will be a while, but I promise you,
it will
वो
be
कहते
worth
हैं
the
ना,
while.
जब
Jab
तक
tak
है
hai
जान.
jaan. And until and I think that's you're the kind of, you may not feel it, but I think that every story matters right now, given how critical Pakistani cinema is in its stage. And I think globally also, historically, if you look back, if we will look back, our children's children will look back at what Pakistan was saying about its society, about its culture. I think stories like yours will be far more critical than the commercial, I would say. Like we, again, not trying to use that word, can't really find another word for it. But that kind of
Yeah,
cinema will probably not tell the story as succinctly as your stories might. But both stories are important, nevertheless. Anyway,
absolutely.
thank
Yeah.
you so much, Shazia,
You're
and
most
bless you.
welcome. Thank you for having
And
me.
and I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Please like, follow, comment, subscribe, share whatever you can wherever you're listening. Have a good day. Be kind to each other and watch Pakistani films. Listen to Pakistani stories. We've got a lot to say. Thank you so much.